Hey, Reviews and Dunn. Who's giving you a dose this week?
How's it going, all? Happy Hump Day. It's your boy, Derek Dunn, back with another A1 interview. Just back from Sundance, and I have the pristine pleasure of talking to Mr. Anthony Tony Jones about his new documentary, Sentient. So while I'm not an animal person, but ironically, I married an animal person, I was pretty intrigued about this documentary because it studies animal testing. And just watching it, I was just taken aback about the detailed information and kind of what really um, goes on. And I have to be honest, kind of when it started, my wife and I both were kind of laughing at just the way that the subject reacted because like he knew what was going on. And so just his running around, it's like it's played for laughs with them, like when you really realize what's going on and the way that the filmmaker zoomed in on his eyes, like you really realize that these animals are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. So my first question to you is, what was your big reasoning for doing this documentary?
It's a great question, Derek. And it started a long time ago for me. I used to work in a television program called Q&A, had a live audience, and I moderated discussions in front of this live audience. And one day I was sitting with Peter Singer, who's a pretty famous Australian, as it turns out, philosopher. And he wrote the kind of original text for the animal rights movement called Animal Liberation. And he said something in response to a question which I found really kind of shocking, but made me think. What he said was, someone asked him about, how this is all going to pan out with the way we treat animals, and he said that in the future he believed that the way humans treat animals now will be seen in a similar way to the way people saw slavery back in the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries. And we all went, well, that's quite a big statement to be, referencing something like that, horrors that happen to human beings. Anyway, I went away and I thought about what he said, and I started thinking about the nature of the animals that we're eating, that we're experimenting on, and so on, and looking at all the new science about how smart they are. Exactly what you were saying at the beginning. You can see in the nature of these animals, in their relationships with each other. The animals that are being experimented on in our film are mostly monkeys. And these monkeys are highly intelligent creatures, and the relationship they have with their children, with their, we won't say spouses, but with their partners, and in the community groups that they bring together are so similar to our own relationships with our children, with our spouses, let's say, and with our communities, that we started to see in these animals something special that's being ignored largely by people. So Singer got me thinking, even though his comment was somewhat outrageous. It got me thinking, and I started looking into the science of the sentience of animals, and that led us down this path to making this film.
Very cool. So you mentioned you primarily focused on monkeys throughout the documentary, and when you think about animals, in particular dogs, and the way that folks really love their dogs, was there ever a point where you thought about possibly going into more animals outside of monkeys? Because I'm pretty sure there's
Mm.
so many animals that get tested on that we actually don't know about. So did you ever again flirt with possibly even maybe like a montage of just showing how other animals are tested on for
Yeah.
whatever purposes or whatever they want to test them on?
Yeah, right at the end of the film, there is a montage a bit like that where we talk about 190 million, a billion, I should say, animals being tested on in the world each year. And I'm talking about, testing for products and drugs in particular in these facilities. Our film takes you behind the scenes. Two employees, rather bravely showing incredible moral courage, went in and filmed what was going on a day-to-day basis inside these two massive testing facilities. Yeah, and so those testing facilities, they don't just test on monkeys. We concentrated on that because that was our, if you like, the arc of our story followed someone who started as a young woman working with apes and with monkeys and ended up over the course of a long career as a primatologist working in research largely in animal research. She ends up deciding that what she's doing, she can't sustain it anymore. She can't bear to do this to the animals anymore. And now she's basically campaigning against the use of monkeys in primate facilities and in testing laboratories. That's why we concentrated on monkeys. But as I said, at the end of the film, you do see, in fact, I won't try and give away what the last scene in the film is, but it does refer to dogs, effectively suffering the same fate as the monkeys in the same facility. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Maybe there's another film here, and I'm hoping that film is taken up by us or someone else in the future. Depending on the success of this one, it could happen.
So, as a cinephile, I could say the strength of a good doc is when it pulls you in from jump with its content. And a lot of times when a doc goes to the traditional feature narrative route, folks will kind of complain saying it didn't hit as hard as the doc did. That being said, though, since your subject matter for Sentient is so strong and also kind of tear inducing, especially for animal lovers, if you were to go the narrative route, what angle would you take?
Yeah, well, I mean, we start as, I guess our beginning is a kind of narrative because it's the very beginning of the journey for these captive animals. So it starts out in Cambodia with truckloads of animals. You don't know what kind of animal you're talking about or you're looking at here, but you can tell that trapped in these boxes in the back of these trucks at night, driving through these dark streets, there's some animals in there crying out. And they arrive then at an airport, and there are these guys with, medical masks on and little torches staring at these animals that are bobbing around. You don't really know what they are. And then they get loaded onto an aeroplane. The aeroplane takes off, and then the aeroplane lands. And what you realize is the same boxes are being unloaded into a very sterile looking facility. And as you say, there is this moment when they open those boxes and they pull one of these animals out, and you suddenly realize it's a monkey. And one of the women working in the facility drops this creature, and it has this moment of freedom, this ironic moment of freedom where it's leaping around inside, escaping the clutches of the workers in the testing facility until they've, and it's, I think you mentioned it almost being comic. It is, because it's like a kind of, vaudeville or Keystone Cops type chase where they're chasing this monkey around this facility, climbing over the boxes to catch it and so on. But I've always thought that was a kind of like a beautiful metaphor for the monkey. He's just come from the forest and now he's trapped in this thing and he has this moment of freedom, and then they catch him. And you realize that is the beginning of the end of his life or her life, as they're sort of drawn into this facility of testing that goes on. And it's a very, very secret environment. There are never cameras allowed in there. In our case, we managed to get this footage shot by the employees, and it's almost cinematic in its quality. So it's a way to tell the story of these animals' lives.
All right, sir. I want to thank you for taking time out of your extremely busy schedule to give me information about Sentient. And where can fans find you on social media and more about the film?
Yeah, I guess it's best because I don't have that in my head, but we have lots of social media. The best place to look probably is the Dog Wolf website. They're representing us, a big documentary company. They're the ones out there trying to make sales for us with people to get this to a streamer or work out some way that the broader world can actually see this film. But Dog Wolf, DOGWOFF, as in wolf, as in a dog. That'd be the place I'd be looking on Instagram.
All right. Thank you again, sir.
Thanks, Derek. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Hey, what's up? This is Ludacris.
What's up, y'all? This is Nicki Minaj.
You're rocking with the best. It's Reviews and Dunn.